Welcome to Rad Rides. Today, we're taking a look at the 1978 Dome Zero. Domco, or Kabushiki Kaisha Domu, translating to Child's Dream, is a Japanese racing car constructor company started in 1975 by Minoru Hayashi. Hayashi built his first race car, a modified Honda S600 called the Karasu, which means crow, in 1965. Even though this was the first car he built, he won his first race. He went on to modify more existing cars into race versions, which he named the Makranza, which was a modified Honda S800, the Kusabi, and the Panic. His dream, however, was to race a car he designed himself at Le Mans. In 1975, he started his own company to build low-production sports cars using race cars to develop the technology. In 1978, the first concept was developed, the Dome Zero. The engine was a mid-mounted Nissan L28 straight 6 from the Datsun 280ZX. The engine only made 143 horsepower, but the car only weighed 2,000 pounds, which gave it a 0 to 60 time of 7.6 seconds and a quarter-mile time of about 14.5 seconds, which was actually pretty similar to the 1970s Lamborghini Countach. It used a 5-speed manual transmission from the Toyota Cressida, disc brakes, and double wishbone front suspension. The planned original price was going to be between $30,000 and $60,000, which translates to about $100,000 to $200,000 today when adjusted for inflation. In comparison, the Countach at the time started around $40,000. The Dome Zero was shown at the 1978 Geneva Auto Show, and people seemed pretty interested. The Japanese homologation rules at the time were strict, and Dome didn't have the money to go through the full homologation process, so producing the Dome Zero to the public never materialized. The showing at the Geneva Auto Show did lead to some toy manufacturing companies buying licensing rights to develop toys and models for the car, which allowed Dome to expand their headquarters and continue developing vehicles. After failing in Japan, Dome created the Zero P2 in hopes of homologation in the United States. This version was a slightly modified Dome Zero that had larger bumpers and some other minor structural changes to meet the United States safety regulations. The following year, it was shown at the Chicago and Los Angeles auto shows, and Road and Track magazine even gave it a good review, where they praised the craftsmanship, comparing it favorably against the Countach when it came to the fiberglass bodywork, exterior, and interior fit and finish. They also mentioned the futuristic interior, which was controlled by a microprocessor, which was still new technology at the time. They mentioned the car would also possibly be available in a turbocharged version and have the option to use the Supra's inline 6. The overall impression was that this prototype was better built than many production cars of the time and could have been a direct competition for the Countach. It looked like things might just work out for a while, but ultimately the company failed to homologate the Dome Zero and the P2 for sale in Japan and the US, and it was never made available to the public. Dome created a race prototype version which didn't require homologation, called the Dome Zero RL, in hopes to compete in the 1979 24 Hours of Le Mans. This version was powered by a Cosworth DFV V8 and had almost completely different chassis and bodywork. It raced in the 1979 6 Hours of Silverstone, and despite good practice times, it ended up finishing 12th out of 13. They were able to compete in the 1979 24 Hour of Le Mans. Dome entered 2 cars, but they both failed to finish. They entered again in 1980 and 1981 with the RL80 and the RL81 revisions of the race prototype, but they never finished either, and this was the end of the Dome Zero and the Dome RL. It's not all doom and gloom, though. Its legacy lives on in new forms. It appeared in a few video games, including Gran Turismo's 4 through 6, Sega GT 2002, Sega GT Online, Auto Modelista, and Drift Stage, among others. The Zero was also the design for the Generation 1 Transformer Hot Rod, or Rodimus, and has appeared in a couple of anime, including Yatterman. It wasn't over for Dome as a company, though. After the Zero, they went on to build cars for Toyota's racing department to race in the Super Silhouette Championship. The Super Silhouette cars were the inspiration for the Japanese Bosozoku car culture, but that will be covered in a future episode, because there's a lot to go over. Dome tried their hand at F1 briefly in the mid to late 90s, They built the famous Takata NSX, and currently they build prototype race cars for Le Mans. So while the child's dream of having everybody drive futuristic space wedges drifted off onto the horizon, Dome has gone on to be successful and have left us with a wacky car to play with and some fun racing games.